Good morning.
Well, there's the voice. There's the voice.
I think that's mainly only because I haven't been speaking to anybody yet.
Oh, well, it takes a little while for the engine to get warm, is what you're saying?
That's right. I start with I'm on my second cup of South Georgia coffee. We just call that Diet Coke in our part of the world.
Well, I'm close. I'm right there with you, brother. Except I go to the other side of the aisle. That is definitely how I run. How long have you had to recover from what happened last night in Open Cup?
Well, it was a big win. I stayed up late, John. I had to watch got to watch it live, and then I watched the replay, which had I got to listen to some of my favorite commentators last night on the call. That was a good time.
I mean, I give Edwin Pintor full credit for that because I said, EP, I'm coming down. And for those that don't know, Edwin is the media relations guru director type for South Georgia Tormenta. And I said, I'm coming down. He's like, well, you want to help out with the broadcast? And I'm like, well, sure, I can help out with the broadcast. And so sure enough, he's like, yeah, okay, you're doing color. I'm doing play-by-play. And so we're just off and running, and we kind of turned it into almost like a talk show format. And the interaction from folks that were watching the match on YouTube, interaction was from like all over the planet. And it was really
fun
cool.
When that happens. I'm with you. That's pretty fun when that occurs. Thank you for keeping Edwin settled in the booth. He gets excited. It's fun to work with people that care about the organization they're a part of.
Well, and I will give Edwin full credit for his goal calls because he did come out of his shoes, and understandably so.
Yeah,
and
that you can tell he's that Mexican national team heritage in him shows up. He likes it.
You've made it through another round of U.S. Open Cup, yeah. RGV, and I was talking about it, and RGV had 2 flights and a bus to get from Edinburgh, Texas to here. Caught up with Wilmer Cabrera after the match. He said, I'm not using that as an excuse. We just didn't get the job done last night. But, the randomness of matchups and things like that, that's the beauty of this tournament. Last night, RGV comes to town, and it took a little while for Ian and the guys to kind of get their sea legs a little bit after having played recently. But once it finally happened, and you're still a little dinged up in a couple of fronts, no Keziah Sterling, no Arthur Boswa, and you end up getting it done, winning 2-1.
Yeah, we don't have Jake Dingler either, so that makes it a challenge. But here we go. Sports are fun when you get to do it. They presented all kinds of problems for us, for sure. And listen, the last couple of games we had our own challenges scoring. All the goals were really good in the game. The highlight clearly is when you save a PK and having Pablo show up at that moment was masterful. I actually thought the rebound was in watching it live. Just missed. It's a great team that Wilmer brought. It was an honor to be on the field playing against a team that he coached. And now it's the fun part of the Open Cup season, right? The draw is tonight, 6:30. We'll see what happens. There's some fun wins. I watched our friends at Greenville, who we play this weekend. I thought they gave Phoenix Rising, a lot, and they're down a lot of people as well. Here's my sort of thought at the moment. We're pretty selfish that we like when Tormenta is winning, and we've had some success against the championship in our last 2 years, but. This is a sport that's been built on a whole bunch of people that came before us, and the health of the quality of play in all divisions is really exciting to see. And we spent decades getting here to this point. And I think the Open Cup gives us a chance to stop and celebrate that.
No doubt about it. And you mentioned Pablo, and I wanted to catch up about Pablo for a second. I mean, there are some tremendous storylines involving Pablo himself about what he wants to do after the fact and what he wants to do and what he wants to take back home. But I mean, you're talking about a guy who's been here since, day one. He's an OG. He's an OG OT. I mean, that's what Pablo is. And to have him come up big in a moment like that last night with a PK save that kept RGV off the board, And, having a guy like that between the sticks, I know that, having TJ Bush here and Pablo here, it's a 1 and a 1A. But you need that, especially with all the tournaments and all the matches that you want to play in a season. But to have a guy like Pablo come up with a moment like that as an OGOT, that's got to make you feel real good.
Life gets us to where we get to be surrounded by some special folks. Sometimes you get to work with them. Sometimes you work side by side with them. Sometimes they get to be players on teams that you love. I'm just lucky. I'm a fan in addition to being an owner. Pablo has a presence, and it's not just because of how he plays in games and he finds moments. Sometimes moments find him, and he succeeds. It's a great sports story to follow the guy. He's clearly the leader of our team, whether he's, quite frankly, in the field or not. We do way more things than are just on the time, but we needed him there. And even, when the fans start chanting Pablo in the crowd after that, the guy is so well loved here. One of the things I've always admired him about the most is he's very present. He lives obviously in Statesboro. He's made this his home. And life will bring lots of things with him, but boy, his time in Statesboro certainly not over anytime soon. We've built a squad around him and a whole bunch of others. But let's just cut to the chase. What a moment. We needed that. The game was 1-0, getting late. I mean, clearly the momentum was shifting a bit to them at that point. And there's a couple other big saves during the game too.
Do you remember what your first interaction with Pablo was when you first, whether it was over the phone or WhatsApp or whatever the kids did at the time and trying to have conversations? What was your first interaction with a guy like Pablo?
Yeah, I remember we were at lunch, quite frankly. We sat down just a one-on-one and learning a lot about him. His parents were getting ready to come up and visit, and a lot of us worked to make sure his folks could get here. It's a long flight from Santiago. In fact, they stayed with my family while they were here. I think the thing I was most struck by here was a person whose talent was incredibly high. By the way, this was in those amateur League Two days when you talk about the first moments. He was already, was a force multiplier is how I describe Pablo. Everybody's better when they're around him, even if it's just drinking coffee at Three Tree Coffee in downtown. But when I realized he was going to school, because he wanted to get better at English, and he was driving all the way into Charlotte from Wingate, which was about an hour each way. And for years, he just sat in on a first grade classroom just to get better, listening, absorbing, so that he could learn that part of his life. The guy is one of my favorite people absolutely in the world.
And to see the person that he has become and that he has blossomed into, not just on the field, but off the field, and what he has visions of what he wants to do and how he wants to impact folks and impact the game when his playing days are done, in 25 or 30 years, when he's, when he's still in between the sticks, when he's like in his 50s or something. But he man has a plan, and it's fun to hear him discuss what his plan is and how he wants to impact folks. He doesn't just want to play a sport and then leave and go home. He wants to play a sport, make an impact in the world that he's in whatever orbit he's touching.
Yeah.
And then he'll think that he's barely started to accomplish what he wants to accomplish.
How wild is it to be around someone who wants history to remember him, not for an ego's sake, but because he feels like he has a commitment to others? It's just fun to be around. It's just a great story. Everybody in this town is crazy about him, certainly the staff that we have. But Pablo was probably up, I can almost promise you, at 5:30 today in the pool just to be recovering so that he can be ready for, what work sessions we have today, which are minimal after a game, but we've got a game again on Saturday.
What work sessions you got going today, man?
The players are just reported about 10 minutes ago.
And
we've got a game on Saturday. We've got stuff to do. And listen, they may not be terribly physical today, but we've got some work to do.
Okay, and you mentioned keeping an eye out on Greenville. Greenville losing 1-0 to Phoenix. So Greenville drew the short end of the straw in the magic of the
They
cup.
really did.
I mean, because you're going from Greenville to Wild Horse Pass, then you're having to come back, and then you got a rivalry match coming up this weekend. And so, I mean, it's like, dude, what did we do? Who did we sit there and send the wrong text message to at Soccer House to get this one drawn up, man?
Yeah, I feel that could be us one day. Anybody could get sent off, but sent that far. But I think it was their first time they weren't able to host a match, so that put them in jeopardy of having to travel. And the East Coast bias and how many teams are on the East Coast versus the West Coast kicked in there a bit. I watched their game. What a fantastic effort that they were given. Easily could have won that particular competition. They're just pros at Greenville. It's an honor to be able to play against them. Clearly, they're our biggest rival and our biggest fans' rival. If you poll our fans, they'll absolutely answer Greenville every time on who they like to play against the most. They haven't played at our new stadium yet. Looks like we got some rain in the forecast on Saturday, so the sub-air system is going to be on here as well as the Augusta National all weekend. For that.
With the weather machine that they have for that tournament, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Any team coached by John Harkes is going to be ready. They looked good last night, and they didn't travel a big party. Had a short bench, and they got their own injuries going. But it's always an honor to play against them. It's a great rivalry. Our players feel it. Our coaches feel it. The ownership and admins feel it. There's so much respect. I think that's what makes it so fun too.
All right, so I've heard a little birdie told me that with this rivalry, there's going to be some added stuff going on. Are you at liberty to discuss what is going on, possibly, probably, maybe, with the future of this rivalry?
Well, this is always a great place to break anything on your show, John. Listen, we've been pretty open about. So the part that certainly it is not that's been made public is we've made great efforts along with the Van Tassells and the Irwins at the ownership groups on both sides, but our front office is about putting together and naming our rivalry. And so the name of that's going to be released tomorrow. I'll hold off on the name, but it's going to be a fun trophy. There's going to be a lot of fun things to do with it. The fans have voted on all of this. Because I won't hold off. We'll go ahead and tell it. So it's too much fun. There'll be a big release with the logo and the trophy. We'll hold off and let others see it. But it's the Peach State's Derby, and while Georgia, we're the Peach State. That's our motto. We wrote it down. South Carolina is pretty excited that they produce more peaches than Georgia. So the Peach States, plural, not possessive. It's my favorite fruit, as it turns out. But we've had a lot of fun putting it together, and we appreciated our fans voting in on what it should be called. So logos and trophies are coming out. Look forward to that, tomorrow on all the various ways our two clubs promote things. It's going to be a whole lot of fun. And if we're really good at this, hopefully we'll get the governors of our two states to start weighing in on it, and all of our farmers can start talking about who produces the best peaches, and here we go.
All right. So, since you've done it, I'm going to go ahead and hit the sounder. All right. The Peach States Derby. The Peach States Derby. There you go.
That sounder's how you know it matters.
The Peach States Derby, Tormenta and Greenville Triumph. Very, very cool. Pictures and evidence to follow, but Darin van Tassell, breaking news on the show this morning. Peach States Derby with Tormenta and Greenville Triumph. You mentioned the stadium, and I know that there's still a lot of stuff there's a lot of ground being turned over and turned around. You show up and you see it for a match. There's development going on. What is the latest on the development of not just the stadium, but all the infrastructure, everything going in behind? Because there's new stuff being completed and added each and every time I show up here to Statesboro.
this is my favorite topic to talk about. We've got the public's property is in, it's opened. They're still putting in a Starbucks that's next to that, and they've really done great on all their side. An additional retail that's right next to this, and unless some folks have seen the property, they don't quite have a sense of how close this is to everything. We got Chick-fil-A and a whole bunch of other restaurants there. So those are just attractive pieces. One of the things that I think that's fun for us is the legitimizers that entity like a Publix or a Chick-fil-A or a Starbucks brings to our projects, to outsiders, because even non-soccer fans can appreciate that. After Saturday, we're away for about the next 3 weeks. We don't at least have a home date, so that'll let us get the parking lot finished. We've got a lot of cement to pour and some curb and gutter. It's a little hard on South Georgia clay when we're getting rain, but it's really hard on the parking. Thankfully, this is a wonderful city we play in, and kudos to our chief of police who's letting us park up and down roads that normally don't sort of let folks do it. The spillover is all here at the clubhouse. So between the expansion of the clubhouse, the addition of residential pieces to the stadium, and the craft brewery and music venue and all our suites, we've got a lot of work to do. The horizontal piece in terms of just getting the dirt moved and electrical pieces there. We worked really hard to get the stadium, John, to the point where we could play in it and still get construction going on. That slows it down in what's an ordinary construction project, but man, it's exciting to see it. The one thing that happens when you do come and see it on site is you can tell we're not done yet.
No. But the fact that you are to this point, that you have for Open Cup, for Open Cup, you have folks showing up in the midweek. For the USL League One Championship game, you had a packed house, and development wasn't to the point to where it is now. But you're seeing those stages, you're seeing that growth. And as a public service, if you park at the Publix, you will get towed now. That's why you're able to park on the road. So we'd like to thank the sheriff and the sheriff's department for letting us be able to do that, because I got reminded, don't park at the Publix. You'll get towed across the street these days because they got work.
Yeah, they want to stay open for business too. And so we've got to be good. We've got to be good neighbors and developers on all that sense. But listen, it allows us still to run first class piece of work. We really can't get more than right around 3,000 in there. We've got a really big crowd expected for Greenville. I know that Easter rainstorm that's coming is going to hurt it a bit because temperatures are going to drop. But we'll see what happens too. The Open Cup draws tonight too. We put into host. I hope that we're lucky enough to do so, and looking forward to a big crowd for that too.
Well, and there are folks who have been commenting in the Twitch pitch, by the way, that they as Atlanta United supporters, season ticket holders, all that. You have a lot of Atlanta United fans in the Twitch pitch who are rooting for the possibility of Atlanta United playing South Georgia Tormenta in the next round of U.S. Open Cup. That's what you're staring at here.
Well, it could happen. It could happen tonight. That's the fun part. We like the results, but we also like the anticipation of what the possibilities are. So we made it the third round. Atlanta United joins in the third round. Geographically, we're close. I'm stating a lot of obvious pieces at the moment. We would like to host. There's some names going to be pulled out of envelopes today. We'll see what happens. Listen, what a moment that would be for not just our club and the state, but for pro soccer in the South. So fingers crossed that we could that something like that could happen.
So what is there going to be a viewing clatch at 6:30 at a predisposed location where Tormenta is going to be watching as a group? What are the 6:30 plans? You guys just
I think we've got to meet as a team and figure that out at lunch today. But I can't imagine there won't be. Right. We will gather and watch it together.
No doubt about it. And we will be looking forward to seeing how the draw happens at 6:30 tonight while Richmond and Cleveland are playing. So they will figure out who the winner of that one gets next time, but they'll actually be busy while everybody else is keeping an eye on what's going on at Open Cup. Darin, as always, my friend, great to catch up with you. Thanks for hopping in right out of jump with your win over RGV. And we'll be keeping an eye on stuff definitely when the matchups come out later today. You got a lot of folks in the Southeast intrigued as to what their next matchup's going to be. Thanks for hanging out with us.
I am one of those fans. And how far have we come in soccer when it's Masters Week in this part of the world? All our hotels here are full for the Masters patrons, and we're talking about pro soccer. I know we've come a long ways. Thanks for all you're doing for it.
No doubt about it. Thank you, DVT. We will catch up with you soon, and enjoy your Diet Coke.
Okay, all the best, John.
Be good. Darin van Tassell, the one of the bosses, the co-owner and president of South Georgia Tormenta. Thanks for hanging out with us. See, now Darin's got golden ticket status too. He can crash whenever he wants. And so it doesn't matter if there's a win, doesn't matter if there's anything going on. He wants to break news. He wants to drink Diet Coke. He can drop in. He's got golden ticket status because he's been with us ever since the beginning. We've been telling the story of South Georgia Tormenta from jump. And so literally Darin can sit there and knock on the door and go, all right, I got something, John, okay, I got something to talk about. And so literally DVT's got golden ticket status. He can hop in anytime he wants. And very, very cool that he came in on limited sleep to discuss everything going on in U.S. Open Cup from a Statesboro perspective. That's why we were down here last night. And